The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland of Kepler 442 be like a monster made of ice and fury. Snow flew sideways through the air, hitting everything with the force of tiny bullets. The mining facility stood alone in this white hell, its metal walls shaking under the endless assault of the worst blizzard anyone had ever seen. Min. Park pulled his thick coat tighter around his body as he walked through the main corridor. The heating system was working overtime, but cold still crept through every crack and joint in the building. Red warning lights flashed on the control panels, telling him what he already knew. The storm was winning. "Sir, we have another power." "Surge in Sector 7, called Hyun-woo Kim from across the room. The chief engineer looked tired. Dark circles sat under his eyes like bruises. He had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to keep their systems alive. Tae-min nodded and walked over to check the readings. Outside, the wind hit the building again, making the whole structure groan like an old ship in a storm. The temperature gauge showed minus 78 degrees. That was cold enough to freeze a person solid in minutes. "How long can we keep this?" "Up," Tae-min asked. Hyun-woo wiped sweat from his forehead with a dirty rag. "Maybe 2 more days if we shut down everything except life support and the main heater. After that, He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. So young Lee appeared in the doorway, carrying her medical bag. Her usually neat hair was messy and worry lines marked her face. "I just checked on the crew in the sleep quarters. 3 of them are showing early signs of cold sickness. We need to keep the temperature up or we will start losing people." Jin Ho Choi walked up behind her, his security uniform rumpled from lack of sleep. "The outer sensors went dark about an hour ago. We are flying blind out there. No way to see what is coming or if anything is moving around outside." Tae-min looked at his small team. These 4 people were all that stood between the facility and total failure. The rest of the crew had been sent back to the main colony before the storm hit. But someone had to stay and keep the automated systems running. Someone had to make sure the geothermal taps kept working through the winter. That someone was them. "Mi Young, any word from Colony Command?" Tae-min called to the communications officer who sat hunched over her equipment. Mi Young Seo shook her head without looking up. "Still nothing, sir? The storm is blocking everything. We might as well be on the other side of the galaxy." Another power surge made the lights flicker. Then everything went dark for 3 long seconds before the emergency power kicked in. The building felt smaller somehow in the red emergency lighting, more fragile. "I need to check the outer perimeter," Tae-min said. "Make sure the storm has not damaged the main heat exchangers." "Sir, you should not go outside in this," Jin-ho said. "The wind alone could kill you." "If those heat exchangers fail, we all die anyway," Tae-min replied. He was already putting on his heaviest winter gear. The insulated suit was thick and bulky, but it was the only thing that would keep him alive outside. "At least take a safety line," So Young said. "If something happens to you out there, we will never find you." Tae-min clipped the heavy cable to his belt. The other end was attached to a winch inside the building. If he got lost in the white chaos outside, they could pull him back. He hoped. The airlock door hissed open and the storm tried to rush inside. Tae-min stepped out into a world of white madness. The wind hit him like a giant fist, trying to knock him down. Snow stung his face through the helmet visor. He could barely see 3 feet in front of him. He followed the guide rope that led to the heat exchangers. Each step was a battle against the wind. The storm wanted to pick him up and throw him away like a piece of trash. The safety line behind him was already disappearing into the swirling white. The heat exchangers were still working, their metal surfaces warm enough to melt the snow that hit them. Steam rose from the units and was instantly torn away by the wind. These machines were their lifeline. Without them, the geothermal energy from deep underground could not reach the facility. Tae-min was turning to go back when he saw something that should not be there. A dark shape pressed against the outer wall of the facility. At first he thought it was just a piece of debris blown by the storm. But as he got closer, the shape moved. It was alive. The shape was actually 5 shapes huddled together against the building. They were big, much bigger than humans. Their skin looked like it was covered in scales, but the scales were dim and gray instead of bright. Steam rose from their bodies where their warm flesh met the freezing air. Aliens.T-Min had never seen anything like them before. They looked something like dragons from old Earth stories, but they walked on two legs like people. Their heads were long with large eyes that reflected light like mirrors. What should have been bright, colorful scales covering their bodies had turned dull and lifeless. The largest one, probably the father, looked up at Tae-min with eyes full of desperation. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough, but the words were a universal standard that all space travelers learned. "Please," the alien said, "help us, we are dying." The smaller ones, children maybe, were barely moving. Their breathing made small clouds in the freezing air, but those clouds were getting weaker and smaller. They were freezing to death right in front of him. "Our ship," the father continued, his voice breaking, "crashed in storm, no shelter. Please, human, help family live." Tae-min stared at them through his helmet visor. Everything he had been taught said he should call for backup. He should follow protocol. He should not make contact with unknown aliens without proper authority, but proper authority was days away, cut off by the storm. And these beings would be dead in an hour. The alien father reached out with one scaled hand toward Tae-min. "Please," he said again, "help children live." Tae-min looked at the small ones huddled against their parents. He thought about his own family back on Earth, safe and warm. He thought about what he would want someone to do if his children were freezing to death on an alien world. The storm howled around them, as if angry that he was taking too long to decide. "Come on," Tae-min said, grabbing the safety line. "Follow me. Stay close." He led the alien family through the white chaos toward the airlock. Behind him, he could hear the father speaking to his family in their own language. The words sounded like relief and hope mixed together. As they reached the airlock door, Tae-min realized what he had just done. He had just invited 5 unknown aliens into their facility during a crisis. He had broken every rule in the colonial handbook, but looking back at the small alien children, barely able to walk through the snow, he knew he would make the same choice again. The storm was still screaming outside as the airlock door sealed behind them. Inside, 5 alien beings stood dripping melted snow onto the floor. Alive because one human had chosen compassion over protocol. What happened next would change everything. The airlock door sealed with a soft hiss, trapping the warm air inside and keeping the deadly cold outside. Tae-min stood face to face with 5 alien beings in the small metal chamber. Water dripped from their scaled bodies as the ice and snow melted away. Their breathing was slow and shallow, like people who had been running for hours. The father alien, who called himself Krell, was the first to speak. "Thank you, human. You saved family." His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The universal standard words came slowly, as if he was thinking hard about each one. Tae-min pressed the button to open the inner door. "We need to get you warm," he said. "Can you walk?" The alien children, no bigger than human teenagers, leaned heavily against their parents. Their scales, which should have been bright and colorful, looked gray and dull. Steam rose from their bodies as the warm air from the facility touched their cold skin. They stumbled into the main corridor together. Immediately, alarms started going off. Red lights flashed on every wall panel. The computer voice spoke in its calm, mechanical tone. "Unknown biological signatures detected. Quarantine protocols activated. Contact Colonial Command immediately." "Jinho." Troy came running down the corridor, his hand on his weapon. When he saw the aliens, he stopped so fast he almost fell over. "Sir, what have you done?" "What I had to do," Tae-min replied. He helped one of the smaller aliens stay on its feet. "They were dying out there." "But the protocol, sir." "We are not allowed to make contact with unknown species without authorization. This could mean court-martial for all of us." Hyun-woo Kim appeared behind Jinho, his mouth hanging open. "Are those real aliens?" "I mean, I have seen pictures, but never." "They are real and they are freezing," Tae-min said. "So young, I need you to check them over. See what you can do for them." So Young Lee was already moving, her medical training taking over? Bring them to the medical bay. I need to see what their body temperature should be. The alien mother, Nira, spoke for the first time. Her voice was softer than her husband's, but just as rough. We need heat, much heat. Our bodies stop working in cold. They moved slowly down the corridor. The aliens' feet made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. Their long tails dragged behind them, leaving wet trails. In the medical bay, So Young began scanning them with her instruments. The readings made her frown. Their core body temperature is way too low. But I do not know what normal is for their species. 98.7, Nira said weakly. Same as humans, but we need air temperature much higher. 35 degrees minimum? So Young's frown got deeper. That is almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We keep the facility at 72. We die at 72? Krell said simply. Tay-min felt his stomach drop. 35 degrees Celsius would cook the humans alive, but without it, the aliens would die. And raising the temperature that high would put even more stress on their failing power systems. Young SEO's voice crackled over the intercom. Sir, I am still trying to reach Colonial Command, but the storm is getting worse. We might be cut off for days. Jinho pulled Taemin aside. Sir, we need to think about this. We have limited power, limited food, limited everything. Adding 5 more beings to our survival equation changes nothing, Taemin finished. We help them or we all die together. But if Colonial Command finds out we harbored unauthorized aliens during a quarantine situation, then we deal with that when the time comes. Taemin looked at the alien family. The children were sitting on the medical beds, their parents standing protectively beside them. They look so much like human families in crisis. Right now, these people need our help. Han-Wu was studying his tablet, running calculations. If we redirect power from the mining equipment and shut down non-essential systems, we might be able to create a warm zone in Storage Bay 3. But it will put more strain on the main generators. How much more strain? Taemin asked. Maybe more than they can handle. We could lose main power entirely. The facility shook as another blast of wind hit the outer walls. The lights flickered. Again, staying dark for longer this time before the backup power kicked in. Daeho Nam came into the medical bay, snow still melting on his work clothes. Sir, I just checked the outer sensors before they went dark. The storm is not moving. It might sit on top of us for weeks. Weeks. Taemin felt the weight of that word. They had supplies for maybe 10 days with their current crew. Now they had 5 more mouths to feed and a power system that was already failing. There has to be another way, he said, more to himself than anyone else. Krell stepped forward. Human leader, we do not want to bring death to your people. If you cannot help, we understand. We go back outside. No, Taemin said quickly. No one goes back outside. The youngest alien child, barely able to stand, looked up at Taemin with large, reflective eyes. In that moment, Taemin saw every child he had ever known. Human or alien, the look of trust and hope was exactly the same. We make it work, he said firmly. Han-Wu, start redirecting power to Storage Bay 3. Create the warmest room you can. So Young, keep monitoring their vital signs. Jinho, help me figure out our food situation. Sir, Jinho said quietly, this could destroy all our careers. Colonial Command does not forgive unauthorized first contact situations. Taemin looked around the room at his crew and the alien family they had just saved. Some things are more important than careers. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the facility. The wind howled like something alive and angry. Inside, humans and aliens worked together for the first time, not knowing that this moment would change everything. As Han-Wu started rerouting power systems, the lights dimmed throughout the facility. The heating units in Storage Bay 3 began working overtime, creating a pocket of warmth that could keep the alien family alive. But with every degree the temperature rose, their power reserves dropped lower. The storm showed no signs of stopping, and their communications were still dead. They were completely alone with their choice. And that choice was already putting all their lives at risk. The incredible thing was none of them regretted it, not yet. 3 days had passed since the alien family arrived. The storage bay had become their warm sanctuary, heated to 35 degrees Celsius. The humans could only stay inside for short periods before the heat became too much for them. But for the Vorthak family, it meant the difference between life and death. Tay-Dashman watched through the thick glass window as the aliens moved around their new home. Their scales had begun to change color, shifting from dull gray to deep blues and greens. It was like watching flowers bloom after a long winter. "They look so much better," So Young said, joining him at the window. "Their body temperatures are back to normal. The children are even starting to play." Inside the warm room, the three young Vorthak were indeed playing some kind of game with small stones. Their movements were quick and graceful now that they were no longer dying from cold. When they laughed, it sounded like musical chimes. "Sir," Deho Nam approached them, looking excited. "You need to see this." Deho led them to the mining control room where Krell stood next to the geological survey equipment. The alien's large hands moved over the surface of the scanning table, like he was reading something invisible. "Show him what you showed me," Deho said. Krell looked up at Taemin with his large, reflective eyes. "Your machines see rock and metal, yes? But they miss much." He placed his hands on the survey table. "Again. Deep below, much heat, much power. Your people dig in wrong place." The scanning display showed the underground layout around their facility. According to their equipment, they were positioned over a decent geothermal source. Good enough for their needs, but nothing special. Krell closed his eyes and spread his fingers wider. "Here," he said, pointing to a spot on the display. And here, hot rivers underground. Much stronger than what you use now." Deho pulled up the detailed scans. "Sir, if he is right, these geothermal vents are 3 times more powerful than our current source. We have been sitting on top of a gold mine and never knew it." "How can he tell?" Taemin asked. "I taste rock," Krell said simply. "My people, we feel heat, feel metal, feel stone through skin. Your machines look with eyes. We feel with whole body." Before Taemin could respond, Yunji Park came running into the room. "Sir, you have to see what the children are doing in the hydroponics bay." They followed her to the plant growing section of the facility. Inside, they found the 3 young Vorthag standing among the vegetable plants. But something was different. The plants looked bigger, healthier, more alive than they had ever been. "Watch this," Yunji whispered. The youngest Vorthak child, who could not be more than 10 years old, placed her small hands near a tomato plant. Slowly, her scales began to glow with soft blue light. The plant seemed to respond, its leaves turning a deeper green, its stem growing visibly stronger. "Incredible," Yunji breathed. "The bioluminescence is somehow stimulating photosynthesis at a cellular level. These plants are growing faster than should be possible." The middle child, a boy, moved to another section of plants. His scales glowed with yellow light, and the bean plants began producing flowers right before their eyes. "Each color does something different," Yunji explained. "Blue light helps with leaf growth, yellow with flowering, green with root development. It is like they are living grow lights, but 1,000 times more effective than anything we have." "My people help plants grow," the eldest child said in careful universal standard. "Plants help us breathe. We help each other." Taemin was amazed. In 3 days, these aliens had shown them better ways to find energy sources and grow food. Things that human technology had been struggling with for years. "Sir," Junesio Yun called from across the room. "Nero wants to show you something in the maintenance section." They found the alien mother working with Junesio on a damaged power coupling. Her long fingers moved over the metal components while her scales flickered with different colors of light. "Your electricity flows wrong," she explained. "Like water trying to flow uphill, we fix." She placed her hands on both sides of the damaged coupling. Her scales began to glow with white light, and suddenly the power readings on the nearby display jumped up by 15%. "How did you do that?" Junesio asked, his eyes wide. We make electricity in our bodies, Nira said. Small amounts, but we can guide it, shape it, make it flow better. Your machines fight electricity. We work with it. Young Si Khan, who had been watching quietly, spoke up. This is revolutionary. Bioelectric manipulation, geological sensing, photosynthetic enhancement. Your people have abilities we never imagined, Krell nodded slowly. Your people have abilities we never imagined too. Machines that think, metal that flies through space, fire that burns without fuel. We are different, but both strong in different ways. Sir, Mi Young's voice crackled over the intercom. I am picking up some signals through the storm static. I think Colonial Command is trying to reach us. Taemin felt his stomach tighten. Colonial Command meant regulations, protocols, and questions about why they had 5 unauthorized aliens in their facility. Do not answer yet, he said. Let me think. But as he looked around the room at humans and aliens working together, solving problems that neither species could handle alone, he realized something important. They were not just surviving anymore. They were thriving, the Vorthok children had. Doubled their food production. Krell had found energy sources that could power the facility for years. Nira had improved their electrical systems beyond anything human. Engineers had achieved, and the humans had given them something equally valuable. Shelter, protection, and acceptance when they needed it most. Sir, Hyun-woo called from the power control station. Main generators are running at 95% efficiency. That is higher than they have ever run, even when new. The bioelectric improvements Nira made, Junesio explained. It is like she taught our machines how to work better. Outside, the storm continued to rage. But inside, something new was being born. Not just cooperation between species, but a true partnership. Each group bringing their unique strengths to create something better than either could achieve alone. The warning lights that had been flashing for days were finally turning green. Food production was up. Power efficiency was up. Even the air quality was better thanks to the plants that were growing faster than ever before. Taemin, Krell said, using his name for the first time. Your people save our family. Now, our family helps save your people. This is good trade, yes? Tae-Min smiled. Yes, this is a very good trade. But as Mi Young continued to pick up stronger signals from Colonial Command, he knew their biggest challenge was still coming. How do you explain to Command that breaking every rule in the book had led to the greatest breakthrough in human-alien cooperation in galactic history? How do you convince them that sometimes the right choice and the legal choice are not the same thing? Outside, the storm howled its anger at the facility. But inside, 2 species were learning that the greatest discoveries happen when you choose hope over fear, and compassion over protocol. The incredible thing that was happening was just beginning. The communication room filled with static and broken voices as Mi Young worked to clean up the signal from Colonial Command. After 6 days of silence, the storm was finally weak enough to let some messages through. Mining Station 7, please. Respond, came the crackling voice. This is Colonial Command. Report your status immediately. Taemin stood behind Mi Young's chair, his hands gripping the back of it tightly. Soon he would have to explain everything. Soon he would have to justify breaking every first contact protocol in the Colonial Handbook. Sir, Krell's deep voice came from behind him. Before you speak to your leaders, there is something you must know about my family. Taemin turned around. The large alien stood in the doorway, his blue-green scales shifting nervously. Behind him, Nira appeared with their 3 children. We have not told you truth about why we are here, Krell continued. We are not just travelers who crashed in storm. We are refugees. Our homeworld is dying. The communications room fell silent except for the static from the radio. Even the crackling voices from Colonial Command seemed to fade into the background. Dying how? So Young asked softly. Nira stepped forward, her scales turning darker shades of blue. Our star grows old, grows cold. Each year, our world gets more frozen. In maybe 50 of your years, no life will be possible there. Our people sent out many ships, Krell explained. Looking for new worlds where Vorthak can live. This world, your Kepler 442b, has everything we need. Good soil, good water, good minerals. Only problem is the winter. Young Seekhen leaned forward with interest. You were scouting this planet for colonization? Not just scouting, Krell said. Our ship carried complete geological surveys of this world. Deep surveys that go down many kilometers. We know where all the heat sources are, where the best minerals hide, where the ground is strong or weak. He paused, looking directly at Taemin. We know this world better than your people do, even though you have been here longer. Daeho's eyes lit up with understanding. That is how you knew about the geothermal vents. You had already mapped them. Yes, and there is much more, Krell gestured to his family. We carry genetic templates for our entire species. Not just DNA, but cultural knowledge, technology, everything needed to rebuild Vorthak civilization on a new world. Taemin felt his knees go weak. You are not just refugees. You are the seed of an entire alien civilization. Mining Station 7, respond immediately, the radio crackled again. We are sending ships to check on your status. Sir, Mi Young said urgently, I have to respond soon or they will assume the worst. But Taemin barely heard her. His mind was spinning with the implications. These aliens did not just need shelter from a storm. They needed a new home for their entire species. And they had chosen his world. There is more, Nira said quietly. Show them, little one. The youngest Vorthak child, whose bioluminescent healing had already amazed them, stepped forward. She looked tired, more tired than any child should look. I am sick, she said in her careful universal standard. Not from cold now, from something else. Something our people get when we are away from home too long. So Young immediately pulled out her medical scanner. What kind of sickness? Loneliness sickness, the child said simply. When Vorthak are alone, away from others of our kind, our bodies start to fail. I need to be with more of my people soon or I will die. How soon? So Young asked, her voice tight with worry. Maybe 10 days, Nira said, tears making tracks down her scaled face. Maybe less, Krell's large hands clenched into fists. This is why we must find new home fast. Not just for our family, but for all Vorthak. We cannot live alone. We need many of our people together or we die from inside. The genetic templates, Young Sik said with sudden understanding. You could clone your people, create a community. Only if we have right conditions, Krell said. Right temperature, right food sources, right minerals in the soil. Everything must be perfect or new Vorthak will not survive. And you think this world has those conditions? Taemin asked. We know it does, Nira said firmly. With the geothermal sources, this world could be perfect for both our peoples. But only if we work together. The radio crackled again, more urgently this time. Mining Station 7, if you do not respond in the next 60 seconds, we will assume hostile action and respond accordingly. Taemin looked around the room at his crew and the alien family. The sick child leaned against her mother, her scales dim with illness. The parents watched him with hope and fear mixed in their large eyes. In that moment, Taemin realized that his choice 6 days ago had been about much more than saving one family from a storm. He had been choosing whether humanity would help birth a new civilization or let an entire species die alone in the cold of space. Mi Young, he said quietly, open the channel. She nodded and activated the transmitter. Colonial Command, this is Mining Station 7, Forman Taemin Park reporting. Finally, came the sharp voice, report your status. Are you all alive? What is your facility condition? Taemin took a deep breath. What he said next would either make history or end his career. Probably both. Colonial Command, all human personnel are alive and well. Facility is operating at maximum efficiency. But I need to report an unusual situation. Go ahead, Station 7. 6 days ago, during the peak of the storm, I encountered 5 alien refugees outside our facility. They were dying from exposure. I made the decision to bring them inside and provide medical assistance. The silence that followed was so complete that Taemin could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, the voice came back, cold and clipped. Station 7, did you just say you have unauthorized aliens in your facility? Yes, sir. 5 Vorthak refugees whose ship crashed in the storm, a family with 3 children. Station 7, you are to isolate those aliens immediately and wait for military escort. Do not allow them access to any facility systems or classified information. A full investigation team will arrive within 72 hours. Taemin looked at Krell, who nodded. Slowly, the alien understood what was happening even if he could not understand all the words. Colonial Command, Taemin said carefully. These aliens have provided crucial assistance in maintaining our facility during the crisis. They have also shared information about geological resources that could revolutionize our mining operations. Station 7. You are not authorized to conduct negotiations with alien species. Isolate them now and await further orders. The channel went dead in the silence that followed. The youngest Vorthek child coughed weakly. The sound was like a small bell breaking. They will come and take us away, Krell said quietly. Separate us from you. Study us like insects. And the child will die without her people, Nira added, holding her daughter closer. Tae-Min looked at his crew. Jinho's hand was on his weapon, but his face showed confusion rather than threat. Hanwo was staring at the power readings that showed their systems running better than ever. So Young was focused entirely on the sick child. Sir, Young Sik said slowly, what if we could prove that cooperation benefits both species? What? If we could show them that these aliens are not a threat but an opportunity. How? Taemin asked. Krell stepped forward. The deep geothermal sources I showed you. If your people help us reach them, create enough heat for Vorthak community, we share all our knowledge. Geological, biological, technological, everything. A true partnership, Nira added. Not humans helping aliens or aliens helping humans. Both species working together, making this world better for everyone. Outside, the storm was finally beginning to weaken, but inside, a different kind of storm was just beginning. In 72 hours, Colonial Command would arrive with military force and strict orders to separate the 2 species, unless something incredible happened first. 72 hours. That was all the time they had to prove that humans and Vorthak could work together before the military arrived to tear them apart. Tae-Min stood in the main control room, watching his crew and the alien family work side by side with desperate energy. If they could tap into the deep geothermal sources that Krell had located, they could create a heat network powerful enough to keep Vorthak alive throughout the winter. More importantly, they could show Colonial Command that cooperation was not just possible but profitable. Il-sung, how is the biomechanical fusion generator coming? Taemin called to the power systems engineer. Il-sung. Cho wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked alongside Nira. The alien mother had her hands deep inside the power coupling, her scales glowing with steady white light. Electricity flowed around her fingers like water, guided by her bioelectric abilities. It is working, sir, but it is like nothing I have ever seen, Il-sung said with amazement. She is teaching the machine to think about electricity differently. Instead of forcing current through the circuits, she is showing it how to flow naturally. Nira pulled her hands back, and the power readings jumped by another 20%. Your machines fight against energy, she explained. Like trying to push river upstream, but electricity wants to flow. We just show it best path. The generator hummed with new efficiency. It was running cooler, using less fuel, and producing more power than human engineers had thought possible. But it only worked when Nira was there to guide it with her bioelectric touch. This means we will need Vorthak to operate it permanently. Il-sung realized. It is not just a human machine anymore. It is a hybrid. Across the room, Sujin Kim was working with the 3 Vorthak children to create something equally revolutionary. They had turned the entire facility into a living heating network, using the children's bioluminescence to grow special plants throughout the ventilation system. Look at this, Sujin said excitedly. The plants absorb heat during the day when the generators are running hot, then release it slowly at night when we need it most. It is like the whole building is breathing warmth. The youngest child, still sick but determined to help, placed her glowing hands on a vine that had grown along the corridor wall. The plant's leaves turned deeper green and warm air flowed from the ventilation nearby. "We make building alive," she said in her careful universal standard. "Building take care of us, we take care of building." Meanwhile, in the geology lab, Dongwoo Li worked with Krell to map the precise locations of the deep geothermal vents. The alien's geological sensing was so accurate that he could feel temperature changes in mineral compositions through solid rock. "There," Krell said, pressing his hand against a survey tablet. "Hot water flows here, 2 kilometers down. And here, 3 kilometers. If you dig in right places, connect them with tunnels, you have heating system for entire colony." "But how? Do we dig that deep without causing cave-ins?" Dongwoo asked. "The pressure down there would crush normal mining equipment." "You do not dig, you ask rock to move?" Krell placed both hands on the geological display. "Rock is alive, like slow-thinking creature. If you understand how it wants to flow, it will help you make tunnels." Young Si-Khan watched with fascination as Krell described geological formations like living things with personalities and preferences. It was completely different from human geological science, but somehow it worked. "This is incredible," young Sikh said. "You are describing tectonic activity and mineral formation like biological processes." "Everything is alive," Krell said simply. "Rock, metal, fire, water, all connected. Human science tries to control nature. Vortex science tries to cooperate with nature." As the hours passed, the fusion of human technology and Vortex abilities created results that neither species could have achieved alone. The facility was running at 110% efficiency. Food production had tripled. The heating system was so effective that they were actually generating surplus energy. But the most amazing development was happening between the people themselves. Jinho Choi, who had been most worried about protocol violations, was now teaching the older Vorthek children about human security systems. In return, they showed him how their bioluminescence could create communication signals that worked even when electronic systems failed. "Your light speech is faster than radio," Jinho admitted, "and it cannot be intercepted or jammed. We use it to talk across great distances on our world," the eldest child explained. "Each color pattern means different words. Very useful when machines break." So young Li had made the biggest discovery of all. While treating the youngest child's sickness, she found that the condition could be helped by human contact as well as Vorthek contact. "It is not just about being with her own species," So Young explained to Taemin. "It is about being part of a community that accepts her. When we include her in our daily activities, when we show her that she belongs here, her symptoms improve." "You mean the cure for loneliness sickness is not isolation from other species," Taemin said with understanding. "It is integration with them, exactly. The Vorthak do not need to live separately from humans. They need to live with humans, as partners, not as refugees." As the deadline approached, Taemin realized what they had accomplished in just 3 days. They had created the first truly integrated human-alien technology. More than that, they had proven that 2 completely different species could not just coexist, but thrive together. The deep geothermal taps were ready. The biomechanical generators were running perfectly. The living heating network was keeping the entire facility comfortable for both species. Food production was so high that they could support a population 5 times their current size. "Sir," Mi-young called from the communications station. "I am picking up approach signals. Colonial command ships will be here in 6 hours. Taemin looked around the facility that had been transformed by cooperation between species. Human efficiency, combined with Vorthek intuition. Human technology enhanced by Vorthek biology. Human determination supported by Vorthek wisdom. Are we ready?" he asked. El-sung nodded from his position beside Nira at the fusion generator. The biomechanical systems are stable. They will keep running as long as both our species work together? Sujin pointed to the living heating network that now covered every surface of the facility. The bioluminescent plants are fully integrated. The building itself is now a hybrid organism. Dongwu held up a tablet showing the mapped geothermal sources. We have enough clean energy here to power a city, but only if we use Vorthak geological sensing to access it safely. Young Sikh stood beside Krell, both of them studying geological data that combined human instruments with Vorthak intuition. The deep heat sources are mapped and ready for development. This world could support both human and Vorthak populations? Indefinitely. So Young smiled as the youngest Vorthak child played with a human tablet, her illness already improving from being part of their community. Medical integration is successful. Both species can live and work together with no health risks. Timon nodded slowly. They had done something impossible in just 3 days. They had created the foundation for the first integrated human-alien civilization in galactic history. Now they just had to convince Colonial Command not to destroy it. All right, everyone, Taemin said. Let us show them what cooperation can accomplish. Outside, the storm had finally ended. The sky was clear for the first time in over a week. And approaching through that clear sky came the Colonial Command ships, carrying people who would decide the fate of 2 entire species. The greatest test was about to begin. The Colonial Command ships landed with a roar of engines that shook the facility walls. Through the windows, Taemin could see armed soldiers jumping out of the transport ships, their weapons ready. Behind them came officers in crisp uniforms and scientists carrying scanning equipment. Admiral Haiwan-Ru stepped out of the lead ship, her face set in hard lines. She had come here expecting to find a facility compromised by alien influence, humans who had been corrupted or coerced into breaking every first contact protocol in the Colonial Handbook. Admiral on deck, Jingho called as she entered the main airlock. Admiral Ru looked around the facility with suspicious eyes. The first thing she noticed was how warm it was, how bright the lights were, how efficiently everything seemed to be running. The second thing she noticed was the plants. Vines with glowing leaves covered the walls and ceiling, pulsing gently with bioluminescent light. Forman Park, she said coldly. Where are the aliens? Working alongside my crew, Admiral, Taemin replied, in full view and cooperation with human personnel. The Admiral's eyebrows rose. Working alongside? Forman, these aliens are to be isolated immediately for quarantine and study. Admiral, with respect, I request that you observe our operations before making that decision. Dr. Sung-Won Park, the colonial xenobiologist, stepped forward with his scanning equipment. Admiral, I am reading incredible biomechanical integration throughout this facility. These readings should not be possible. As if summoned by his words, Nira appeared from around a corner, her scales glowing with soft, white light as she monitored the power systems. Behind her came Il-sung, carrying a tablet showing power readings that made Dr. Park's eyes widen. Admiral, Il-sung said excitedly, you have to see this. Our power efficiency is running at 112%. That should be impossible. But the bioelectric integration is creating feedback loops that enhance system performance. Bioelectric integration? Admiral Ru asked sharply. The Vorthak can guide electrical current with their natural abilities, Dr. Park explained, his scientific excitement overriding protocol. They are not using our technology, they are improving it. Admiral Ru's stern expression did not change. That does not excuse unauthorized first contact with an unknown species. Unknown species? Krell's deep voice came from behind them. The large alien approached slowly, his hands visible and empty. Admiral, we are Vorthak. We have been trying to contact human colonies for many years, but your protocols make communication difficult. You speak universal standard, Admiral Ru observed. We learn your language because we want to be friends, not enemies, Nira said, joining her husband. Our world dies from Cold Star. We look for a new home where both our peoples can live. Dr. Park was scanning them with his instruments, his face showing amazement. Admiral, their biological capabilities are extraordinary. They can sense geological formations, manipulate electrical fields, enhance plant growth through bioluminescence. This is the scientific discovery of the century. Dr. Park, remember your position, Admiral Rue warned. But Taemin could see curiosity beginning to replace suspicion in her eyes. Admiral, may I show you what we have accomplished together? Taemin asked, before she could answer. The youngest Vorthik child came running down the corridor, her scales bright with healthy color. She stopped when she saw the soldiers, but So Young appeared behind her with a reassuring smile. This is our patient, So Young said. 3 days ago she was dying from both cold exposure and loneliness sickness. Now she is healthy and strong. Because she is part of our community. Loneliness sickness? Dr. Park asked, immediately interested. Vorthak cannot survive alone, So Young explained. They need community connection or their bodies shut down. But we discovered that human community works just as well as Vorthak community. Integration, not separation, is the cure. Admiral Rue looked at the healthy child, then at the efficient facility around her, then at the humans and aliens working together without fear or conflict. Show me everything, she said finally. The tour that followed opened Admiral Rue's eyes to possibilities she had never imagined. Daeho showed her the geological surveys that revealed energy sources powerful enough to supply the entire colonial sector. Yunji demonstrated the food production systems that could end hunger on frontier worlds, Young-sik explained, how Vorthik geological sensing could prevent mining disasters that had killed hundreds of human workers. Sujing showed how the bioluminescent heating networks could make any world habitable, even during the worst winters. This is remarkable, Dr. Park said as they watched the fusion generator running at impossible efficiency. But Admiral, the implications go far beyond scientific discovery. If the Vorthak are truly refugees from a dying world, and if they possess genetic templates for their entire species, they could rebuild their civilization here, Admiral Rue finished. On our world, not your world, Krell said quietly. Our world, shared world. Both peoples working together, both peoples strong. Admiral, Taemin said, in 3 days we have accomplished more than our colony has achieved in 3 years. Food production has tripled, energy efficiency has doubled. We have mapped geothermal resources that could power cities. All because we chose cooperation over conflict. Admiral Rue was quiet for a long time, walking through the facility and observing the seamless integration of human and Vorthik abilities. She watched human children learning light speech from Vorthik younglings. She saw human engineers and alien scientists sharing knowledge that neither could have discovered alone. Finally, she stopped in the main control room where humans and Vorthak worked side by side, monitoring systems that had become more efficient than anyone thought possible. Forman Park, she said formally, you violated direct orders. You broke first contact protocols. You harbored unauthorized aliens during a quarantine emergency. Taemin stood straight, ready to accept whatever punishment was coming. You also, Admiral Rue continued, prevented an interspecies diplomatic incident, saved 5 lives, and created the most successful human-alien cooperation in galactic history. She paused, looking around the room at the integrated teams. Dr. Park, what is your scientific assessment? Admiral, this integration represents a quantum leap in both species' capabilities. The Vorthik geological sensing could revolutionize mining and planetary development. Their bioelectric abilities could advance our technology by decades. Their agricultural knowledge could solve food scarcity across the colonies. And the humans provide infrastructure, manufacturing, space travel, and organized colonization capabilities that the Vorthak need to save their species, Admiral Rue said thoughtfully. Yes, Admiral. This is not a case of one species helping another. This is true symbiosis. Both species become stronger together than either could be alone. Admiral Rue walked over to where the youngest Vorthak child was playing with a human tablet. while Hyanwu showed her how to access the educational programs. "Child," she said gently, "are you happy here with the humans?" The child looked up with bright, trusting eyes. "Yes, Admiral Lady, humans are family now. We help each other stay warm." Admiral Rue straightened up and made her decision. "Forman. Park, by the authority granted to me by Colonial Command, I am establishing the Kepler 442b colony as the first official human Vorthic integrated settlement. You will serve as Joint Species Administrator with Krell as your Vorthic counterpart." The control room erupted in cheers from both humans and Vorthic. Even the soldiers who had come expecting conflict found themselves smiling at the celebration. Furthermore, Admiral Rue continued, "I am recommending that this integration model be studied and replicated throughout the colonial sector. Dr. Park, you will head the new Interspecies Cooperation Division." "Admiral," Krell said, his voice thick with emotion, "you give our people hope for future. We will not forget this kindness." "It is not kindness," Admiral Rue replied. "It is intelligence. Your species offer each other things that neither can achieve alone. That is not charity. That is good business." 6 months later, Taemin stood on the observation deck of the expanded facility, watching human and Vorthak construction teams working together to build the first integrated city on Kepler 442b. The geothermal taps that Krell had helped them find now powered not just their facility, but a growing community of both species. The bioluminescent heating networks had spread throughout the settlement, creating warm corridors even during the planet's harsh winters. Food production centers used Vorthic agricultural knowledge to feed a population that grew larger every month as more refugees arrived from the dying Vorthic homeworld. Human spacecraft brought technology and supplies. Vorthic knowledge improved every system they touched. Children of both species played together in corridors lit by living plants and heated by shared cooperation. "Sir," Myung called from the communications station, "we are receiving the weekly report from Colonial Command. 17 more worlds have requested Vorthic geological surveys. The food production techniques we developed are being implemented on 12 agricultural worlds." "And the refugee ships?" Taemin asked. "The third wave arrives next month. 2,000. More Vorthak plus the human engineers and scientists who volunteered to work with them.